Hello and welcome back to the channel, and of course another video about the construction of Heaton Lodge Junction Phase 2. It's getting a little bit nippy down here, as done certainly in the last few days with the change in temperature, hence the jacket. But digressing, I was looking on the YouTube videos the other day and a few people asked how I keep my enthusiasm up working down here. Not quite alone anymore. Of course, James comes in a couple of days a week, my relatively new helper who does a fantastic job. But I think the key, and I've mentioned this again in previous videos, is changing the jobs that you do. So whether you're really building a small layout, whether it's N-gauge layout or a motive power depot layout in double O gauge or O gauge, I think the key to keeping your enthusiasm is certainly just changing the jobs that you do. So all of us have different aspects of the hobby that we like. Mine, of course, is detailing and scenery. I don't particularly like electrics, which I know a lot of people share, but typically what I do is just change all the jobs on a daily basis. I never do the same thing hour after hour after hour, because then I know that if I go home, I'm not going to come the next day. I'm just going to have a day off, and I can't really afford any time off at the minute. So I just thought, just in case you're interested, just popping up on the screen now, is a list of the jobs that typically kind of form a normal day for me down here in the dungeon, as I call it. So again, you'll see there's just such a variety of different tasks, and yeah, I go home a happy bunny simply because I usually leave the most enjoyable ones till the end, so I can continue with them first thing in the morning, and I think that really makes a lot of difference. So the key is really to keep changing your jobs. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. Anyway, in today's video, we've got a lot for you, or I've got a lot for you today. There's been loads of progress with the mainline station, courtesy of James. I've been doing loads of different jobs, from ballasting, droppers, but I've also had a lot of deliveries, some really exciting and variable ones too, which I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. What else is there? We've got the landscaping that we didn't do last week and the week before as well, so we're going to do that. We're going to cover that. I've got a list here. What else? Book of the week, of course, and we're just going to catch up, yeah, on the ditches that we did, and the, of course, with the casting resin. So we're going to see how they've dried and how they're coming along. So lots this week to cover. So without further ado, rather, let's get cracking. Right, let's move on to what has landed in the dungeon this week. And one of the most interesting things to land recently is these beautifully handmade trees. Now, I made quite a lot of trees like this for phase 1 of Heaton Lodge Junction. As you can tell, because I model in the winter, they've got no foliage or leaves or whatever. So there we go. But I had these made, and I had them made by Anthony from Tree Menders. Details are popping up on your screen now. Now, Anthony runs a business which makes some super scenic products. A lot of you will have seen him at various exhibitions, but it's relatively unknown, but he will make you, if you ask him nicely, a variety of different trees too. They're not cheap, I've got to be honest. These are absolutely beautiful, but they do work out at about 100 to 120 pounds each. I can hear the sharp intake of breath, but when you consider the work that goes into them, one of these will take you or me or Anthony himself probably a good 4 hours, possibly a bit more to make. And honestly, you can tell that so much time has gone into them. They really are beautiful. We got what looks like a larch tree or a birch, no, maybe a larch tree there, more like a chestnut tree there. These are actually made, interestingly enough, from florist's wire, which comes like this. I was talking to Anthony about this when I went up to collect them from where he lives in Manchester the other day. And basically, you get florist wire, and this is the method that I've used just very, very quickly. And then you can pull off strands, wrap them round the main trunk, and then you can just tie them up. You can twist them. You can add other bits of wire to them to increase the thickness of the branches. And then you can dip them in plaster, or I actually use Das clay. I covered these trunks, the main trunks, in PVA and then wrap them round with Das clay. I'm going to go through this method of making trees in a few weeks' time because I'm sure it's going to be of interest to people. But that's how Anthony makes these. Again, he'll make them in double O. I'm sure he'll make them in N gauge as well. But even in O gauge, interestingly enough, these are still quite under scale. They look big, but actually trees are absolutely huge. And these really are some of the best model trees that I've ever seen, and probably one of the few that I've allowed to kind of grace phase one of Heaton Lodge Junction. And yeah, Anthony's company, Tremendous, he will make these for you. If you ask him nicely, just drop him a line, he'll give you a quote. And if you're making maybe a small layout and you've only got 2 or 3 trees, it might well be worth the cost because they really are a talking point. These ones have got ivy on as well. I just love the ivy. Again, nothing on my layout, especially on phase one, is particularly bright in colour, simply because it's winter and everything's dumbed down. So there we go. Beautiful trees by Tremendous. Right, let's move on. Now, last week I mentioned to you, just move these out of the way, about concrete. And I have discovered a company called Graffiti Gallery, again, which is popping up on your screen now, because I've been hunting high and low for some really good spray concrete that gives a really good finish, but also it lasts a long time. It just gives a really good coat because I've got so much coverage to do with concrete rattle cans. I don't use an airbrush anymore for concrete because it just wears the airbrushes out. These are available from Graffiti Gallery. They come in 2 different shades. In fact, 3 different shades I think they do of concrete. One of these, which is called, where are we? City Hall. It's just on there. Is actually a more of a kind of a whiter shade, more of a newer shade of concrete. This one, which is Empire, is got more of that yellow tint, which I actually prefer. Concrete isn't white. A lot of it has got real yellow tinges in it. And this one, Empire Concrete Aerosol Rattle Can by Graffiti Gallery, is really, really good for replicating large areas of concrete. And if you do what I do, and you'll see in a minute how I do it, with the talc, just dropping it into the wet paint before it dries, you'll get a lovely impersonation or replication, if that's a word, of concrete. So yeah, there we go. Let's move on to what I've got next. Now, my credit card has taken an absolute hammering this week. And do you know what? I'll ask you this. Why is it that so many of us buy a loco, whether diesel or steam, in a particular livery, we get it home, we run it round, and then we want another one exactly the same, and one isn't enough. You've always got to have 2 or 3 of exactly the same loco. I just don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just a model railway thing or what have you, but it's certainly something that I have to contend with. But I could not resist this Hellion, and as you'll see what it is, it's one of my favourite locos. Here we go. Yes, it's another Class 56. This time in one of my favourite liveries, Load Haul, which is a typical late 90s, early 2000s livery. I mean, you know, how can you not like that? It's absolutely stunning. And I will say that if I haven't got a name and a number that one of these Load Haul locos actually carried. So if some of you in the YouTube comments would like to volunteer some numbers, I have got Kellingley Colliery and I have got Eggborough Power Station and I've got Port of Hull. But if one or two of you or any of you would like to volunteer some suggestions for how I'm going to name this loco in Load Haul livery, then I will be I'd be really grateful, because I'll go with whoever comes up with the best name, or whoever comes up with the most number of the name the same. You know what I'm getting at anyway. But yeah, Load Haul livery class 56. What else have we got? Well, excuse me while I just put everything down. Another Hellion loco. Well, not really a loco. Let's have a look what this is. This is the first time, apart from half an hour ago when I first unpacked it, that I got to see one of these. What is it? Well, take a look at this. It is the new Class 153 DMU from Hellion. And again, look at the size of it. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And I used to hate these back in the day, but now Hellion have brought it out as a model, and obviously I'm modelling this era. I mean, how can you not like this? With some people in it, drivers in it. This one is the DCC and sound version, so it makes the bleeping of the doors and all the rest of it absolutely superb. I am going to power it up when I get power back into this layout on phase 2. And we're going to do a lot more of an in-depth review on this Class 153 from Hellion. Comes in loads and loads of liveries. Now I'm going to have a couple of these running together in Northern Swoosh livery, as you can see. I'm also going to go for a couple of the East Midland Trains liveries, which I have seen up here in Yorkshire quite a few times. So there's going to be at least 4 separate DMUs, but probably 2 running, 2 together, if you know what I mean. I don't know if the 153 is running or ran in twins. I'm sure there will have been instances when they did. But I just love that. And it's just so big. It really is. It's a superb model. So hats off to Hellion for getting it right. Really, really nice model. What else was I going to say? Yes, interestingly, if you do want one of these, or they do them in lots of different liveries, the prices are popping up on your screen now. I've heard whispers there is not any left back in the warehouse in Denmark. So whatever has been manufactured in China, shipped over to Denmark and then to here, that's all there is, folks. So if you do want 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, then you need to get on your bike, because I don't think there's that many left. It looks like Hellion have deliberately this time actually manufactured you know, maybe a lesser number than what they would have done a few years ago. So that, folks, is the new Class 153 from Hellion, and it's just stunning. And as I just said, we will just show you the front end too. And look at that, beautiful. We'll do a much better and longer in-depth review of this when I've got some power at this side in the next few weeks. Again, available from all sorts of retailers. This one came from Gauge Master, but available from lots of different Hellion retailers. Let's move on to the next box, see what we've got inside it. So the last 2 products that have landed this week, this one came from Lee's Locos. This is the first one to roll off the production line that I have repainted and made a half decent job of it. It's not too bad. It was rail freight grey before. Blasted it with the high coat primer, didn't strip it down, just repainted it in EWS colours. It's now come back from Lee's Locos, sound fitted. It needs drivers, windscreen wipers, some more detailing put on. But this, folks, is a typical example of what is going to be running on Heaton Lodge Phase 2. And this one, as you can see, is Eggborough Power Station, which is actually quite near to here. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. It's now been weathered. I use Rail Match satin varnish to finish it off. And yes, it looks okay to me. It's okay. It's not the best. It's certainly not as good as Factory or somebody like Dave Lowry would do, or Lee Edmondson from Lee's Locos, but it's okay. Anyway, let's move on, because again, and I said at the beginning, my credit card has taken a bashing this week, but it took even more of a bashing when I've been eyeing up this loco, which has been on eBay. I saw it for weeks and weeks. It was at Trains for You. Oh, another Class 60. Why do I need another Class 60? The answer is I don't need another Class 60, but I just love this for one reason. It is in a very, very different livery to what you would normally see. So here it is. It's a Chorus Class 60. Clearly, it will have been a repaint, because I don't think these came from the factory. But this particular 60033, I saw myself. I've seen it running. I actually saw it running through Doncaster once, hauling a steel train back in, it must be 15 years ago now. But what a stunning paint job. Whoever's done this, and I don't know who's done it, they've done a fairly good job weathering it, but the actual paint job itself is really, really nice. This one came from Trains for You, who did a fantastic job of parceling it up and sending it to me. It must have been wrapped. It was like a Chinese doll. It was wrapped about 4 or 5 times within another parcel and another parcel. I thought it was going to be a double O gauge one by the time I got to the end, but it wasn't. Fortunately, it was this big, chunky O gauge Class 60, which is going to be pulling, some of you might remember, the huge steel train that ran at Wakefield with 20 cargo wagons full of what looks like steel girders, coils, and what have you. This is going to be pulling that train probably with 6003, is it from memory? The one that's in the British Steel light blue livery. So there's going to be 2 of these, double heading a massive steel train. And yet with some drivers, which it hasn't got, and a bit more weathering, I'm probably going to put a bit more frame dirt, I think, on these bogies. I think this will look super. I'm not going to vandalize it too much, because I think it just looks lovely in this beautiful silver. So I just couldn't help myself. How much was it? Oh God, I didn't tell you. I think it's way in excess of what I should have paid for a Class 60. But I had to get it. It's just a lovely, lovely model. So yeah, it came from Trains for You. All right, yeah, it was 700 quid. I know that's a fortune for one that's actually a Class 60 rather. I don't think I've paid much more than 300 quid for most of my Class 60s. But this one I just thought was worth it for the beautiful paint job. So anyway, there we go. Let's move on. The last thing we've got, a little bit more boring, I'm afraid, is just lots of paints from Phoenix Precision Paints. We've got DB Schenker red, the satin red. We've got some more concrete paint, which I don't need now with those rattle cans. And we've got some tarmac. This tarmac from Phoenix Precision is actually really nice, and I'm going to be using this on the mainline platforms, which I'm going to take you to in a second for another reason. And then the bleached, which is faded tarmac, which is also from the same company, which is also makes a really good rendition of tarmac. So there we go. I've got a little paint mixer because mine's seen better days. Battery paint mixer from Badger via Amazon, which was 20 quid. But that, folks, is about what, oh, and track colour as well. because I like varying the shades of the sleepers as I'm ballasting the track. So that, folks, is about it for this week, and I'm glad it is, because my credit card can't take any more. Anyway, I want to show you one more thing before we finish on this deliveries clip, and I'm going to take you and the camera over to the mainline station, so hang fire. Okay, folks, so I've just brought you to the last thing that has landed this week, which landed in kit form and is gracing the centre platform of Dewsbury Station, or Dewsbury Oxford Road Station, which is a fictitious name. But this is a canopy that was made by Pop-Up Designs, which is based in Scotland. And for those of you that like Scottish layouts, Scottish railways, check out Pop-Up Designs, because I don't think the name of that company does it business. They have some stunning, and I mean stunning, laser cut Scottish stations and canopies in double O gauge, certainly in O gauge as well. And this is one of their products, which James has put together over about 3 hours. This was £176, based on Fort William Station. You're probably thinking, why the hell has he built a canopy? Has James built a canopy based on Fort William when we're in Yorkshire? But I think with a bit of bastardization, so to speak, I can make this into an LNWR canopy, a bit like, maybe, I know Hellifield is Midland, but certainly we're not going to be far out when I've finished with it. But it's absolutely beautiful. And again, I've just looked on their website, and it's a real shame I'm not modelling a Scottish prototype, because there are some stunning stations on there. But anyway, the canopy is going to be painted white, probably today or tomorrow or over the weekend. And I'm going to be painting the uprights probably red, and then I'm going to give it a really good coat of dirty black to dumb everything down, and then we're going to glaze it and we're going to light it. This is just part of it. The rest of it is there. James is going to be building the rest of it next week. And then, of course, it's going to be gracing the middle platform to where you can just see that masking tape start in the middle. The main station buildings based on Dewsbury are going to be on the left, and the canopy is going to go on the right-hand side, not up to the bridge, but not that far away. And certainly on this side, it's going to go near to the bridge as well. So that should look really, really impressive. I'm just going to pick it up, actually. It's quite light, but it's just really, really well done. And as I said, James has made, look at that. James has made a super job of putting this together in a little over 3 hours. So yeah, there we go. Bit of lighting, bit of plexiglass, and that's going to look the part. I know it's not curved. A few people pointed out on the Facebook page it's not curved, which is a shame, but I wonder if we can make it curved. I don't know. I'll have a look at it. I'm sure there's a way you can bend it. It's certainly, you can't bend it without cutting something out of it, but not to worry. At the minute, it still looks great. So there we go. Pop-Up Designs. And yeah, they do lots and lots of Scottish-based stations, including this lovely canopy. Okay, so let's move on to Book of the Week. And normally I would feature nearly new books, books that have only been printed a couple of years or so or newer. This one was printed back in 1977. But I'm going to show it here because it's available on eBay. It's only a £5 or so, but goodness me, if you want a really good read on one of those horrible December drizzly Sundays, then you can't do much worse than buying this book. Because for those of you of a certain age, and I'm saying, well, my sort of age, 50s or over, it's just a superb book full of nostalgia and will bring back so many memories. Obviously, yeah, written in 1977 when 01, remember that, from Hornby, was first announced. This book is just great for one particular chapter that I really, really enjoy. And it's this chapter here, Layout Review. And it's got some of the best layouts in here from the 1970s. And back then, you know, modelers had it a lot worse than we did. I know we all complain about prices and stuff, but honestly, modelers back then really did not have it like we do today. There was nowhere near as much stuff available. This chap here, this is one of my favourite kind of European layouts, Alton Beacon by Rolf Ertmer. And this guy scratch built loads of his locos. It's in HO scale. It is absolutely huge. I don't even know if he's still alive, bless him. Hopefully he is. But it's just so, how can I say, it's so authentic. It's absolutely unbelievable. The next one, the Buckingham branch. Now, who remembers the Buckingham branch from Railway Modeller in the 1970s? Is it the Reverend Peter Denny that built this? Let me just have a look. I think it is. But it just, yeah, it is the Reverend Peter Denny, who again was really, really well known as a modeller back in the 1970s. It just brings back so many memories. This one I really like, the Crooked Mountain Lines, which again is actually an O-gauge layout. The chap Robert Hegg built all these, scratch built everything in a massive basement in the States. And again, it's just well worth looking at the techniques he used for scenery, because some of them he can still use today. Some of them, of course, have moved on. But it's just a great read. But without further ado, I've got to mention this one too, which is the layout Heckmondwike. Now, this part was written by Bob Essery, whose name I see quite often, I think in the Model Railway Journal. But again, you know, the accuracy, we can all learn things by these guys that operated in the 70s and 80s, because there's just so much that we take for granted these days. But this book, just a great book. Look at that, 01. And who remembers, that's just reminded me, of the Hornby, what was it, the catalogue from 1979? What was it now? Ticket to Ride, that was it, when all those new locos came out. Who remembers that? I bet there's some of you nodding right now. But just absolutely brilliant book, really good fun. For a £5 from eBay, it's just a great read. So that, folks, is my book of the week this week. The only kind of older book I'm going to feature, but one that I know a lot of my friends would love to read. So available on eBay, published by Octopus. Goodness knows if they're around, I don't know, but it's certainly still available for a £5 on eBay, and a great read it is. So there we go. Okay, so here we are at the far end of the basement where I do all my spraying. And as you can see, I have been busy painting these silos that Tim Horn cut for me last week out of the drain pipes. And these are going to be the silos. I've used quite a lot of different shades of cement or concrete paint, as you can see here. And just by sheer, well, I actually made a mistake, and I picked up the kind of primer, white primer, and sprayed that instead of concrete, but it actually came up rather well, because it looks like even more dried on concrete at the top of these silos. Now, these silos, by the way, when they're all fitted to this building at the bottom, and they'll have walkways, they'll have ladders right across the tops. They'll be adorned with a massive blue circle cement logo. This will all be lit. There'll be walkways, goodness knows what else. this is going to look rather good. So I'm quite pleased with how this concrete is turning out. And as you can see by this video that's just cut in now, this is how I do it. And it's basically just spraying with the aforementioned concrete paints and then lobbing talc all over the wet paint and then just spraying it all over the top of the talc. But it does come out rather good. So that is another building I've done there. I always try and make sure that I've got some yellow tint to the cement as well, because as I said earlier, especially in the introduction, there's a lot of cement that's definitely got more of a yellow tint than the normal kind of cement white that you see everywhere else, because I think it yellows when it gets a bit older. But there we go, that's looking pretty good. More progress on the cement factory, which is slowly coming together. And just before we move on from concrete silos, I've just been making these as well, which again is used the same kind of waste pipe from Wicks, but I've used some corrugated paper, which looks like, well, it looks like corrugated iron, I guess, if you put it around this way. I'm going to spray this, I'm going to prime these, and I'm going to make them look like steel silos. As opposed to concrete ones, and they're just dead easy to make. You just need the paper, roll it on. I just painted them, I painted PVA paint on the bare waste pipes, and then I've just rolled on the the corrugated paper on top of it, stuck it down with PVA. Some of the bits here are going to adorn it, including the top of a conveyor belt. We've got the ladders here, caged ladders. We've also got some walkways, and they're going to adorn all these. And when it's all painted, it should look pretty good. I've also put a top in there too, because we're going to run a ladder across the top. You won't see this joint because I'm going to hide it with a ladder. But yeah, that's the top, and that's just going to see the, well, let's just put it on. It's going to look a bit like this. So yeah, there we go. Quite easy to make, but quite... yeah, it really does hit you in the face. So there we go. Steel silos instead of concrete. Right, just wanted to bring you up to date with what's going on with the ballasting, because I have been continuing with this. It always continues unabated for a couple of hours a day. And yes, I have done a fair bit of ballasting, all these tracks, as you can see, right down to that, or those couple of blue tubs and the vac sitting on the surface. So what have I been using? Well, let me just show you. This actually down here still has not dried yet. Just standard 50-50 mixture of PVA and water. And I've dropped it in using one of those giant droppers that some of you laughed at the other week. But basically, I've used two different makes of ballast. I'm using the last of the DCC Concepts steam era ballast on all the sidings, and then I'm going to revert to Scenics. This is Scenics Granite ballast, and in fact, if we look at some that's already dried, it's looking quite good. Now, I've not painted the track before ballasting it, and I'm going to show you why in a second, because I think it looks better once you've actually ballasted the track and then you paint the whole lot, and I'll show you why, as I've just said, in a second. So we've got granite ballast there by Scenics. Next to it, we've got the modern ballast that they do, and then over here, I've changed it again to the weathered limestone ballast, or weathered ballast, which is there. Again, none of this track has been painted, but if we just take you over to the next section, this is some that I have finished. So what I've done here is I've used a rattle can by Humbrol, which I've featured on here before, dark earth rattle can, and I've just given it a light coating of that. So I've not painted the track, just to clarify, before ballasting. I've ballasted it and then I have painted it. You can see the difference there, and it looks so much better once it's actually painted. So there we go. With the concrete track, I haven't done it yet, but I give this a very light dusting as well. But we're going to go over in a second and just have a look at the some of the track that I have finished, and I've also painted the sides as well. So there we go. That is super wet still, and that is granite too. And yeah, you can see all this, and it's just made so much easier. I'm not going to bang on about it again, but that Make It Miniature vacuum has just transformed the ballasting on Heaton Lodge. It's just made it so much quicker. So let's just nip underneath. In fact, I'm not going to take the camera, not going to turn the camera off. I'm just going to take you underneath with me. So these are all the droppers. You can see them all going down there. There's usually about, what is there, 30 or 40 per board, but I quite like soldering these days. It's not the dark art that, excuse me, that I've found. I've just knocked the camera. So we'll go over the other side. Hang on. Let me put you back, sorry. Right, so this is what I have done. I've just set this up for the static grass and the landscaping that I'm going to show you in a second. But this is what I have finished. Now, this was the weathered ballast by Scenic, which I've painted. Have I painted the sides? I have. I think I've painted the sides on this as well with an airbrush. So yeah, that's all been done. So that's concrete track with the DCC Concept Steam Era ballast, which again is very similar to the Scenic sidings ballast, which I'm going to shortly revert to. But this one here, if we nip over onto this side, we've got, again, weathered ballast. And all I do is I've just mixed and matched the ballast so it looks as though it's just been replaced for whatever reason. Now, let's just nip onto this, because as you remember from last week, some of you might remember I was going to, well, not drink that, the last of that casting resin out of that cup. So I used it and I poured it in here. So I've made it a little bit deeper in this pond that we did, or this ditch that we did not a few weeks ago. This is a few months ago. Some of you might remember who've been watching these videos regularly. So I've poured a bit and that looks really good. Buried gate, the signature bricks, and the Das clay underneath, which I didn't paint, and it's kind of mixed in with the casting resin, but it's giving quite a pleasing effect. So yeah, there we go. I'll take you around to show you the ditches that we did do last week. Let's have a look. Right, so we did these ditches a couple of weeks ago, as you remember, but this is the one we did last week. It looks extremely deep. It definitely needs a life, what is it, one of those life buoys next to it, for sure. But I'm just going to pretend that, you know, all this clutter was thrown in here before the fencing got put up, and somebody came along from health and safety and said, yeah, I think we need to get the fencing up. So the fencing is going to go up in the next couple of weeks, but I just wanted to show you the finished results. You can see that rubber tyre buried in that casting resin, and you can see here where I've done two of the, just get the light out of the way, I've done two pours of this, and it looks very deep and very dangerous. So yeah, just be aware of doing too many pours of casting resin if you don't want to make it look really deep. But that's just got two pours, probably about, I'd say, 4 or 5 mil of casting resin, maybe a little bit more. So there we go, bang up to date with ballasting and the casting resin. And this again is the Scenic ballast, and as you can see, if I just pan out, you can see how I'm just deliberately changing the ballast every so often to give that difference, which uniformity, don't forget, is the enemy of a good scenic modeler, because our brains are wired to make everything look the same, and that is not what we want in scenery. So just remember that uniformity is the enemy of scenic modelers. So right, okay, without further ado, let's nip on, and I just wanted to quickly show you the museum. Right, we're now about 45 metres away from where we were a second ago with the ditches and the grass and what I was showing you with the ballasting. And this is the museum, which is the brainchild of James, who comes in a couple of days a week and does a fantastic job helping me out. He came up with this idea, and you know what? It's absolutely superb, because this is going to allow me to show off lots of different eras of steam, even Stroudley coaches from maybe the early 1900s. It's going to be packed with all sorts of really interesting locos and coaches. Now, I was going to use originally the 4 sheds from Railway Laser Lines, but Steve from Railway Laser Lines has taken it upon himself, thanks Steve, to design and make this superb Shildon-like shed, which the details are popping up. The design that is done in CAD is just popping up. So that is going to cover 4 tracks here. And then we're just going to have a line which comes past, and on it we are going to have, and this is directed at all you rivet counters, of which I count myself as one, this is going to have none other than Thomas the Tank Engine. Yes, I know you'll all love that. But Thomas is going to be bouncing down here, and he's going to be controlled by any kids that come and see this layout. And yeah, it's just going to introduce, seriously going to introduce a bit of fun. And it's only going to take up about 10 or 12 feet, but I just think with families, which is obviously what this side is aimed at, it's just going to be really good fun. So Thomas the Tank Engine is being built by TRS Trains. Kyle at TRS Trains is building it for me, and he's going to be shipping it out hopefully in the next month or so, and we're going to review it and have a look at his smiley little face running up and down here. So the museum is ongoing. I've still got to fit all the plywood sheets onto these carts, which was actually delivered yesterday, 7 o'clock in the morning from Wicks. Thanks very much. And yeah, so there we go, all in progress. So you're bang up to date. Let's just go over and do the static grass demonstration and the landscaping, which is what I've been talking about for ages. But just before I go, I forgot one thing. There's also going to be a covered walkway, which is going to run from the HS3 high-speed line elevated station, which is going to go straight to the Shildon kind of type museum down there. So yeah, there we go. Right, landscaping. Now, before I embark on showing you how I do it, I just wanted to give you a really quick history lesson, because static grass was such a massive part of Heaton Lodge Junction Phase 1. I had to get it right. So I literally spent the best part of a year perfecting what I thought was really good static grass, or really good authentic looking grass that you see on motorway embankments and on railway embankments and cuttings. It's always got this yellowy kind of tinge to it because it doesn't get enough water. So as you can see from the video now, if you think that's quite good, it is a result of a lot of practice. And in the end, just cutting back to this, I came up with 2 shades of grass from one manufacturer that I thought gave a really good rendition of perfect winter, autumn, even summer type grass, because even in the summer, grass has got that kind of, on embankments, has got that kind of yellowy look, at least on some. So Mini Nature is the manufacturer, German manufacturer that I use. I always get it in these massive bags direct from Germany. You can get it, in fact, I get it as well sometimes from Scale Model Scenery. Scale Modeler's Shop, which I think is popping up on your screen now. There are other retailers of Mini Nature in the UK. It's not quite as easy to get hold of, but if you want that sort of grass, which I've just shown you, that effect, you need these 2 shades, which is late fall and beige. And I use 6mm with it being O gauge, but you might want to use 3 or 4mm if it's double O gauge. So that are those are the 2 shades that I use. Now, I also wanted to tell you that for those of you that have got N gauge layouts, double O gauge layouts, any type of gauge, if you're not happy with your scenery, basically what I'm going to show you next, you can daub on the PVA gloopy glue over your existing scenery and come up with just the same results as, again, I'm going to show you now. Doesn't matter, because whether it's flock or whether it's existing static grass, this on top will actually make it look even better than possibly what I'm going to show you now. But yeah, let's cut with, in fact, no, we just need to cover the ingredients. So what we've got the 2 shades of static grass that we talked about. We've also got some woodland scenics blended turf, which we sprinkle on to give the appearance of weeds. We need some, this is just basically spray matte varnish. You can get it anywhere, cheaper than the layering sprays that you can get from shops, which purport to do the same thing basically. I'm using this doll's hair, or postiche as it's known, from Green Scene. You can get it from Tree Menders, who did those lovely trees I showed you earlier, and Tree Menders call it Canopy. And the other thing we need, of course, is PVA glue. The thicker and cheaper, the better. But one of the magic ingredients, and again, I've covered this, and I'm sorry for those of you that have watched these videos regularly, is this stuff. Now, it can either be crushed earth from your garden, or it can be from Tree Menders, which is sold as earth powder, or you can buy it as topsoil. In fact, where I buy it, it's just popping up now, the manufacturer, or not the manufacturer, the retailer of it, and it's basically silted topsoil. But you really need that because it gives a huge authentic feel to static grass. We need obviously a static grass applicator. I'm using what's called an RTS Greenkeeper, which is a German made, only because it's a bit more robust because I do so much of it. You can use any of them, Flockit from Flockit. There's just loads of applicators and all of them work very, very similar. So I'm just going to show you quickly how I prepare the grass, some of which I've got in there. So let's just cut to how I prepare the grass first. Right, the static grass itself, now I have pre-mixed this in a blender, the 2 shades together. And I do think this is essential because, as most of you will find, when you get static grass from a packet, it's often in lumps and you do need to get rid of that. So I've poured a load of static grass of the 2 shades from Mini Nature together in here. And then I bought a blender. This is probably about a year old. I think it was about 11 quid from Argos. And all I do here is just stick the raw kind of grass 2 blends together, straight out the packets, stick the lid on the blender like so. Just move that out the way. And then it's just a case for 20 seconds. You can hear it getting all those lumps out. Right, so that will just about do, and that's basically what I do with all the static grass. It goes on much better when you've blended it like so. The grass is, it's just much easier for the static grass applicator to feed it through the bit on the end, you know, the net on the end. In fact, talking about it, I've got it here. So this bit here, it's much easier for the applicator to actually get rid of it onto the scenery. So again, for the sake of 10-15 quid, if you're doing a lot of static grass, it is, and covering a lot of surface, or you want to make it look extra special, you do need one of these for the sake of a tenner. So there we go. That is the preparation of the static grass. What I've done here is I have carved this using a hot knife from basic polystyrene sheets, and then I have pushed into the filler, the name of which is popping up again now, these pebbles which replicate the tufts of grass which you often see on embankments, be it whatever they are, whether they're motorways or what have you. I've just dropped my paintbrush in the glue, but never mind. In fact, that's no good. Let me just go to my other brush. And all I'm going to do is daub on thickly standard PVA glue. I don't use any normal glues. Don't forget I did 50 meters of this stuff using just PVA and nothing special, and it still looks pretty good, or at least I think it does, blowing my own trumpet. But there we go. I'm going to do just this bit first so you can just see. Again, the PVA glue, you really don't want the thin stuff. I know it's difficult to check it when it's in a bottle, but you really need the thicker gloopy stuff. So once we've done that, the next thing is to just get the static grass gun out. Just let me cut to that bit and we'll start using the static grass applicator. Okay, so I've just secured my screw. I've just pushed a screw into there for the earth. I know a lot of people say that you don't need to do this, but I always do because it's what I'm kind of used to. And then I'm just going to use the static grass applicator like so. It takes a few seconds to get itself into a really good... it's coming on stream now. You can see it all sticking up. There we go. In fact, you can hear it. It goes everywhere, this stuff, but it's good fun. There we go. We're just going to do one layer to start with. And again, this is 6mm. There we go. Right, that's gone on okay. Yeah, that's going on well. Okay, right. That is fine. Let me just unclip that. And then I'm just going to show you the magic trick, which is just basically sprinkling on this earth powder, which immediately, in fact, you can use a sieve. I should use a sieve more. Hang on, let's have a go. Oh, that's better. Yeah, so there we go. I'm just sieving on the earth powder, as I call it. And immediately you might need to chuck a bit. And don't worry if there's too much of it, because it's all going to get covered by the second layer that we're going to do in a minute. There we go. Probably put a bit much on, but those of you who know me now will know that I do too much of everything. Right, okay, so that is the first bit, and already just look at the difference. It's just incredibly, I'm going to use the rattle can for the second layer. So all we're going to do is blast it with matte varnish. Now you need to put it on in such a way that you can see the droplets. You can see the droplets there, and then we're going to attach the static grass applicator again to that screw that I've left in there. And we're just going to do a second demonstration. Now then, look at this. I keep saying it, but I honestly don't think you can get a better look from these two shades that I use a lot. If you do have problems getting the Mini Nature stuff, just go straight to Mini Nature. They've got a German website, and it does translate into English, and you can buy it direct from there. So look at that. Absolutely brilliant. And then just very quickly, I am going to just give it another quick spray. Then I'm going to just, before I put some of that canopy dulce stuff on, that's probably come from some poor old Russian lady somewhere. but I'm going to sprinkle on a bit of this blended turf by Woodland Scenics. And look at that. This really gives a good rendition of weeds. Don't really know why, but it does. Okay, and then what I normally do, just to get rid of those white bits under, I just lob earth onto them like that. And don't worry, see I'm covering them all up, because on embankments you see tons of earth. It's not all covered by grass, and it certainly isn't one cover. But that looks super. Right, okay, let's just finish off, because I wanted to do this quick just to show you just how easily it is to do. Right, okay, so we're just going to go over it with the, you do use a lot of matte varnish. I like the smell of it, it goes everywhere. Okay, so we've got that. And then I'm just going to move this camera and give you a better, take this out of the way, just give you a better look at it. Okay. And then I'm just going to put on a little bit of this doll's hair, which you can hardly see until you spray it, like so. And once you spray it, you can see where it is, which makes it much easier to then put on the green, what is it? Sorry, the blended turf by Woodland Scenics. And if you put this on top, what it does is it just builds up layers. It just gives you, it stops that flat effect. It just gives you another layer. And we're just going to do that. And I'm going to keep it simple this week and call it a day with that. But I'm going to take you off the tripod and just give you a close-up of what we've just done. Because tomorrow, or in fact later in the day today, that is going to look pretty good, even better than it does now. So I'm going to take you off the tripod and just show you close-up. Right, we've got a bit more light there, shining on our work. And as you can see, I keep saying it, but I don't see how you can really get much more realism than a rendition of an overgrown embankment or cutting by doing anything different to what I've just done. And if you zoom in on it or just close up, you can see what looks like all the weeds and nettles. And wasn't that easy? I mean, it took me, 4 or 5 minutes? But it's just come out really well. And it will look even better when it's all dry. All that varnish is wet at the minute, but it'll dry in an hour or so, and it just looks even better. So I'm going to do that all the way down there. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed that demonstration, and hope it's been really useful. And don't ever forget, you can just cover your own scenery with what I've just done, and just daub that PVA on, and you will get exactly the same effect if you use the same ingredients as what I've shown you today. There we go. So that's it for this week, folks. Bit of a matinee this week. That is the longest video I've ever produced, and I do hope you enjoyed it. I know most of you will only watch parts of it, and that's fine, of course. But yeah, I remember going to the matinees, back on a Saturday afternoon when I was a kid. And the lady used to come out with an ice cream tray. Oh, anyway, I'm digressing, but I should have done this maybe in this video. But I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, have a great weekend. Please like and subscribe as ever. Does mean a lot. Nearly at 10,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely fantastic. I said last week, and I'll say it again, I'm really flattered that you take the time to watch these videos, and I hope they're informative, and I hope you enjoy them. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.